Coach's Corner this week, this is our spring football edition, so throughout the course of the spring, we will be sitting down with the new head football coaches across the Kanawha Valley. There are multiple, so we will try and hit all of them from now until the beginning of June. So we will start off this series with the new but returning head football coach of the South Charleston Black Eagles, head coach Donnie Mays. Coach, welcome to the program.
Picked a nice spring day to come, didn't you? It's beautiful outside.
It felt great outside. I've had the windows down the last probably 2 days or so, but it's been good. I like it.
No, I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, so talk about that. I mean, what's this like for you being back in a really familiar place and trying to get things re-implemented here?
Well, there were some things that happened in my last stint here. I spent 16 years here. I had no plans of leaving, but I had some disagreements with some in areas that, as a teacher and a coach, you can't have, and I prayed about it, and I felt like it was probably time that I move away from that situation. And I just lost my dad about the same time that all that stuff was going on, so I had a lot weighing on me, really heavy stuff, and I needed to get away and try something new, never knowing I would ever get a second chance to come back where I call home. And I'm blessed to have this opportunity. And I had a couple people reach out to me whenever it went on the job, on the hotline, just city people of South Charleston and Dunbar, and said, just come home. It's time, and we know you want to be here, and we want you here. And I was excited about that, just the messages that I received. And I prayed, like I said, I prayed about it, and I talked to my wife a lot about it, and I ultimately made a decision that, this is where I want to be. So had a chance to meet with the mayor and Gerald Berge and his staff and those guys. And, we just basically talked about, how we had the program and how we're going to move forward and make it where we need it to be. So pretty excited about this.
Before we go any further about talking about trying to get things back moving up here at South Charleston, let's talk about your previous stint at Hurricane before we go any further. I mean, kind of put into words those 3 years that you had at Hurricane and how that kind of helped you grow as a coach.
It was a nice 3 years. Met a lot of great people over there. Like I said, when I told Mr. Caldwell, the principal, and Heather Halls and Jeff Nall, I didn't leave, and I'm not leaving because of anything that was done by them or anything like that. They're great people, and Hurricane's a great place. It's a great place to be a coach. They've got great kids. They've got a great community. Some of the parents, like the help that I had running that program was amazing and integral in our success. But ultimately, at the end of the day, just choosing to come back home had nothing to do with that, with Hurricane at all. It just had to be like, this was home in my heart. And I thought we did a lot of great things over there. I mean, we averaged 9 wins a year, and that's something that hadn't been done over there. We took them to the first Final Four for Class AAA in 2022, and then we took them to the first Final Four in Class 4A in 2024. And between all that, the thing that I always press, and I feel like there's no other staff around that does as good a job as ours, is pushing our kids to college. And I know there's a lot of great coaches out there, and we all kind of work together to help each other. But, on average, my first year there, we had 16 seniors, and we sent 14 of them to play college football. And my second year, we only had 14, and we sent 12. And then this past season, we had 16 again, and we've sent 14 to play college football. And each of those 6 situations, the kid, either chose they didn't want to play college football, or I'm just ready to go to school, that type of thing. So we were, that's where I feel like the most accomplished. I feel like we did what we needed to do to make that a successful situation for our kids. And it's about the relationships. There's no promises in recruiting at all anymore, especially with the transfer portal, but it's the relationships. And you can't sit to a college coach and lie to them, because it hurts the next kid. And I think that over the years that we've been extremely honest about our situations with all the colleges that we've dealt with, and it helped grow that. And when I left South Charleston to go to Hurricane, every one of those guys that have always recruited my kids went there. And as soon as I told them, guys, I shot them all a message and said I'm heading back to South Charleston. They said, well, we'll be back up there recruiting again too. So, it's a blessing to have that type of relationship with those college guys.
When you talk about these first couple of weeks, I know you've been back now for a little bit less than 2 months, but obviously before we started doing this, you guys were in the weight room getting bigger, stronger, and faster. But just kind of walk me through what these first couple of weeks you're wanting to use with this group of guys that you have, what you're wanting to continue on throughout the spring.
I mean, we're just going to bring back the mentality that we had before whenever we were here. We took over. I was with John Messenger for a long time, and I learned a lot about the weight room through John, and how things need to be structured and done, and I watched a lot of really growth out of a lot of great players, like kids like Blake Brooks, and who still holds records at Marshall University for strength records, because John was amazing with that stuff. But whenever John took over as head coach and he called me about the opportunity to come here, I didn't even think about it. This is a place that I've always wanted to be. Matter of fact, I was a senior in high school, and Steve Canterbury was on the bus. He was a coach, was our defensive line coach, and he and I were kind of talking on the way back. He said, what do you want to do when you get older? I said, to be honest with you, and you can quote him on this, I'll give you his phone number and everything, but he said, I told him, I want to be the head football coach at South Charleston High School one day. And he said, why South Charleston? I said, I don't know. I said, I see it, and I'm a high school football player, but there's so many talented kids that go through that school. And whenever we played Dunbar and South Charleston every year, it was a dogfight. And I know that if the right piece or right person gets in there with these kids, you can be successful. So that's kind of why I wanted to be here. But with John, when we took the program over the first time, it was I think it had like maybe from 1995 to 2005, maybe like 29 wins. So between John and me, we were won 119 games. John won 62, and he's the all-time leader in wins. And I think I was right around 55 or 57 or something like that, however you count some of the COVID stuff, which was a crazy year anyway. But, so between us, I felt like we got this program flipped. We won 3 state championships, lost one in 2014, and we had this program where it was a perennial playoff football team and went deep into the playoffs every year. So, you're always in high school sports. You're always going to have a few years where you're going to have some struggles and things like that. But what's good about a good program is that they rebound from it. And I felt like when we were down, we did. And I feel like that's what we're going to do now, is get this thing flipped the same way we did back in 2005.
As you know, as a coach, trying to flip things back around to what you guys originally had takes a little bit of time, some trust along the way as well. As a coach that's been doing this for a long time, how are you going to try and recapture the trust of your players? Because you are a new guy to a lot of these guys, but how are you going to try and regain the trust and get that trust with these guys?
Well, we literally, right before you guys got here, just talked about we have one simple rule here, and it's just do the right thing. And if you're willing to do the right thing at all times, like if I turn my back while you're doing a jumping jack and you stop, you're not doing the right thing. If I'm talking and you're not looking me in the eye, you're not doing the right thing. So we're going to hammer that down of doing the right thing. And that's going to extend to our classroom. That's going to extend into the classroom, and it's going to extend outside into the community. And but you never know who's watching you. And if you go out there acting like a clown in the streets, or city of South Charleston or over in Dunbar, and somebody sees you and they report it back to me, you weren't doing the right thing. You're not doing what we're asking. So we're going to make sure that we do exactly like Coach Messenger and myself tried to push for so many years. Just do the right thing. It's a simple rule, and guys like Bill Belichick live by it. So I think that it's a pretty smart thing if a man like him has that in his repertoire.
Talking about just trying to flip this program back around, because you did mention you guys were a playoff perennial powerhouse. I remember growing up in this area over in North Charleston, we went to a lot of games here since my dad went to high school here, but just seeing the team, seeing the success that you guys had, you mentioned the state titles, but only just a couple of wins in the last 3 seasons since you've been gone, I believe. I think 2 to be exact, but nonetheless, What's your message to people to try and get people excited again and try and get students excited for South Charleston football again?
Oh, it's simple. We're going to win. I mean, we're going to get back to winning. It's not a knock on any previous coach. You know, it's not a knock on Carl, who took over the program. It's not a knock on Dustin, who had it the last 2 years. I had the utmost respect for Carl Lee. He's one of the greatest football players to ever come out of the state. He did a phenomenal job as an athlete and all that stuff, but I think respect is also both ways. You know, I think we did a lot of great things here as coaches, and we're going to continue to do that. And when you fight for kids and you work for kids to be college football players and you help them reach their goals, you don't have to say much at all to people. People talk about it, and they recognize that stuff on the outside. And then ultimately they want their kids to be part of your program. And that's the biggest tool that you can get to help a kid, is just making sure that you're doing your job the best way that you can. That's how we're going to get this program flipped. We're going to go in that weight room every day. We're going to lift every single day that we're here. We're going to bust our butts. We're going to make sure that our academics are right. And then people who come to the school to recruit are going to say South Charleston kids are some of the best kids they've been around. And winning will take care of itself. That's the way it always has been for us, and it's the way it's always going to be. You know, like I said, we won 27 games in 3 years over there, and I had 57 or 55 over here. That's not going to change. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to win. And, you know, I don't know what classification. That's a discussion right now that they're all talking about. We could end up in AAA. They might jump the number down to 750. You know, I don't know. I don't care. But we will get back to our winning ways. The kids believe in what we're doing right now.
Yeah, so along that line, just with this group of kids that you got, I mean, what's the vibe that you're getting from these kids collectively? Are you seeing a lot more rejuvenation in regards to just wanting to get back to the basics and getting bigger and faster and stronger? Or what are you kind of seeing with this group so far?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question, because, you know, it goes beyond these kids in this locker room. It goes to former players. You know, when Xavier Bosley has a brother on the team, it means a lot to him. And, you know, and he reached out to me and he said, you can win with that football team, and we know that if you were there, you can get this thing done. So when a kid like that reaches out to you, when Zaki Lawton, who doesn't have a dog in the fight, calls you, and you know, Trey Dunn and Mondrell Dean, those guys all reaching out, sending a message. Xavier Jones did the same thing. They have buy-in. So you take that and you discuss that with these kids. You bring it in that locker room, and now this is bigger than you. This is about another person who wore the same jersey number as you. You're going to see on that football field, and that was something that we implemented, that number 5 is always going to be represented as long as I'm part of South Charleston. And I'm glad that it's still there on that, because when we designed that turf, that's what we put on there. Because Tyler Harris was one of the greatest football players to play in the state of West Virginia, and rest in peace to Tyler, and Blake Brooks too. But Tyler Harris was one that, you know, he won a Kennedy Award. He helped us win state championship. Was probably, without a doubt, you know, when you said we need, he did. And I'll forever remember those moments with him. But he's going to be represented on this football field forever. And those kids are going to know what number 5 means. Number 5 is going to be like our, you know, a lot of people's number 1. You know, it's going to be a special number to wear, and you got to earn that one.
A couple more for you. And talking about the alumni perspective, you mentioned a lot of those guys that went on to play very successful football here, but also at the collegiate level. How much of an emphasis is that on your group, meaning these are kids that were able to go on and play successfully? We've been able to move kids on to the collegiate level. How much of an emphasis are you going to use that as a coach now back here at South Charleston?
Well, I mean, the kids who have left here, we were fortunate enough to put a lot of them in college, like we said, but there's been quite a few that play in the NFL. Matter of fact, you know, historically, South Charleston has more NFL football players from the high school than any other school in the state of West Virginia. And I beat that through the kids' heads constantly. If you want to be like that, you got to be like them. And I'm talking about the Alex Hawkins, the Anthony Basses, the Carl Lees, the Derek Pittses, the Aaron Dobsons, you know, all these guys, Robert Alexander, rest in peace. You know, some of the greatest guys to play high school football in our state came from this school. And you've got to own up to what they've accomplished. And there's only one way to do that, and that's to excel in everything that you do and represent your school the best way that you can. But you have to, we talk about strain all the time, and I think you peeked in there and you saw us straining in that weight room. And I'm not sure that from talking to them, just in recent history, that's been a thing for them, but we're trying to make them go above and beyond what they think they can do. I think that's the job of a coach outside of coaching, is making sure that a kid can do things that they didn't know they could do before.
And finally, you kept mentioning this early on. I should have asked you this earlier, but you kept using this one word, home.
Yeah.
Why does this place feel like home to you?
I don't know. It just always has. It's had a feeling to it ever since I walked through the day. Mike Arbogast and John Messenger was the ones that recruited me here, and I was working for Steve Stoffel at Herbert Hoover at the time, where I went to high school. Mm-hmm. And Herbert Hoover's got really nice stuff, and went through a flood, and I went back, and we took my South Charleston kids, and we all went up there and helped pick up homes and all that stuff, just to help them go through that. And they've got extravagant stuff right now, but I've just felt like when I walk through the doors here, because I've been approached by Herbert Hoover before about going up there, but this just feels like home to me. I don't know. I think that when John and Mike Arbogast reached out to me, and I had the opportunity to meet these kids, God puts you in a place a lot of times to test you. And this is a school that a lot of kids need a lot of help, and I feel like that I can help, and I'm going to do everything in my power to do so. So it's a wonderful place to be. I would not be back if it wasn't a place that it felt like home. And plus, it's another perk having a principal that's a football guy. Ryan Carter was a heck of a football player himself. He played high school football in Ohio, and he played college football over here at the University of Charleston, so he gets it. And whenever you got a guy like that backing you, it makes my confidence levels go up. And he's younger than me and swears that he's going to be here through my retirement, so that makes it a little bit easier. So, I've got about 10 years of teaching left. I know I have 10 years of teaching left, but God willing, I'd like to be on the football field, about 15 to 20 more. I don't know that anybody's going to ever outlast old Coach Edwards over there at GW, but because, that guy just keeps going. He's like the Energizer Bunny with coaching, but, respect to him. But I'd love to coach this game until God takes me. So, but this is the place that I want to be, and I prayed about it a lot, and I'm happy as heck that the community, the mayor, and all the phone calls and texts that I've received, and even this group of parents that these kids are, they're happy, and I'm happy to be back. So it's kind of mutual. There's always a honeymoon phase, but we're in there working, and I said from the get-go, I said, I'm not having a honeymoon with you all. We're going to get to work. So.
Well, Coach, good luck throughout the spring, and good luck as we transition towards the summer, then ultimately in the fall, because don't look now, but football season's right around the corner, even though we are in the spring sports season. So good luck in getting everything ready to go, and we'll talk soon.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. That's the head football coach of the South Charleston Black Eagles, head coach Donnie Mays. Be sure to check out our coverage from now until the end of June, or the beginning of June, I should say, with all of our baseball and softball coverage by going to our website, wvgazettemail.com. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at GazMail Sports. That's GAZ Mail Sports. And be sure to follow us on Facebook at HD Media Sports.